When people tell me, I don't know that this hypnosis is going to work for me, Gila, and I say to them, well, you're really good at hypnotizing yourself into believing that you should be afraid public speaking. I'm going to teach you how to hypnotize yourself into feeling calm and confident about public speaking. Hey there, welcome to this week's episode of the G-Spot. I'm Gila Zak, certified hypnotherapist, and I'm here to talk to you about all things unconscious behavior, human behavior, and how hypnosis or hypnotherapy could help you. Today on this episode, we're going to talk about fears and phobias. It's perhaps one of the most common reasons that someone would seek out a hypnotist. Now, are they the same? Are they different? We're going to go into all of that, but what I invite you to do is just as we're going along this process, you might be thinking to yourself what you might have a fear or a phobia around, and I'm going to help you discover how this might have started for you and how you might find yourself on the other side of it more easily than your thinking mind could have ever once thought possible. So essentially, fears and phobias are different. Now, we know that fear is a natural response to a perceived threat. What can happen in a fear state, you know, is that there's an activation of your nervous system. The amygdala fires off, we go into fight flight, then the limbic system has to ascertain, is this excitement, is it terror, is it fun, or is it, I'm fucking out of my mind afraid. So the idea is that how do we label the fear? So essentially, fear is a tool. And you wouldn't take that tool with you into an environment or a place or an interaction that it really wasn't appropriate. You might not need to take that tool to work or on a date or in a social environment with friends when you're out and around town. So when you think of fear as a tool, remember you are the master and you should be the one deciding when it actually needs to come forward. Phobias are different. Phobias are irrational and they basically come out of nowhere for people. And we hear this all the time, it just came out of nowhere. And that is because there is no logical reason why you should be afraid of that thing. So a true fear says, I was bit by a dog and now I am afraid of dogs. That's a true fear of dogs. A phobia, to be phobic of dogs, is I've never been bitten by a dog, but I am afraid of them. And what happens is that person was in an environment where they saw someone else get bit by a dog, or they heard about someone getting bit by a dog. And then their imagination starts to take over, and in that experience, what they're watching, observing, or hearing, they now activate to, and their subconscious mind maps across to the experience. And now when they're in a similar experience of any kind, they start to just go into this extreme panic response because there's a dog, even though they themselves have never had a negative experience with a dog. So fears and phobias are very different. One is rational, one is irrational. So how do we treat this with hypnosis? Sometimes, if we know what the ISE is, the initial sensitizing experience, we can desensitize that person to it. If it's phobic, there isn't an ISE. There's nothing to really desensitize to, with the exception of how you want to feel about it. So with a fear, we can go back to the initial event, we can reframe it, give it a different meaning, give it a different feeling, and then we have a different response. But a true phobia, we can use more like a systematic desensitization, where we anchor in a state of confidence and calm from somewhere else in their life or through the hypnotic experience, and then we step by step move that person through the experience feeling the way they want to feel. There are also other techniques that we can use that involve NLP that help us to really reframe the experience, depotentiate it, and kind of erase the associative response more quickly than we could through other means. So the idea being is that one is rational, one is irrational. Who is the tool? Who is the master? And just know that the brain is a really interesting thing, and the nervous system is an incredible, exquisite thing, and our mind is an incredibly imaginative space. So when people tell me, I don't know that I'm going to be able, that this hypnosis is going to work for me, Gila, and I say to them, well, it sounds to me like you're really good at putting yourself into a fear, anxious, or worry state very quickly. And when I explain to them what hypnosis is, I tell them, you're really good at hypnotizing yourself into believing that you should be afraid public speaking. I'm going to teach you how to hypnotize yourself into feeling calm and confident about public speaking, because it all comes from someplace inside of us where we don't feel we're capable, confident, a fear of being judged, a fear of being ridiculed. Have we had an initial experience around that? And even if we haven't. So the idea being that if you have tricked yourself and hypnotized yourself into believing that you should be afraid or worried or anxious in this social situation or in front of people or around your boss at work or a coworker. The hypnosis can help you to trick the brain, the mind, and the body into believing something different. I tell people that the brain and the mind are like this pattern-seeking little duo, and they're always trying to predict what's going to happen tomorrow based on what we experienced yesterday. So the subconscious mind is not logical. It is completely irrational. It cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. And so when we get into these experiences of fear or phobias, what's happening is that we're trying to anticipate what might happen in the future, the anticipatory anxiety piece, or we are experiencing it in the moment based on what we think it needs to be. And this is all bullshit. It's all irrational. And that's why we use hypnosis, because hypnosis is imaginative. I tell people, if you are using your imagination, emotions, and feelings to create a shit experience for yourself here, there, or everywhere, I can teach you how to use your imagination, emotions, and feelings to create a much better scenario in all of those situations. So yeah, if you think you can't be hypnotized, if you think this can't work for you, maybe, maybe not. It's what you want it to be. But I will tell you for certain, if you've ever experienced misplaced anxiety, misplaced anger, misplaced shame, blame, guilt, or fear, you have put yourself in a state of trance. The last thing I will say about exaggerated fears or phobias is please be kind to yourself. This is a natural thing that happens to people. It doesn't matter what your education level is. It doesn't matter what culture or background you come from. Everybody has the capacity to develop an exaggerated fear or a phobia. It really, anyone can have this. It just depends on if the right circumstances, or I should say the wrong circumstances, all come together to imprint the unconscious mind, the brain, and the nervous system into an experience that they think they need to try to predict in another time. If you are interested in getting rid or neutralizing and really coming to terms with what might be sending you into misplaced fear, exaggerated fear, or a phobic response, get yourself connected with a reputable hypnotist. There are lots of them out there. Do your due diligence and make sure that you find one that's a good fit for you. As always, if you have questions for me about this topic or any other, please leave them in the space below. Like and subscribe if you found this content informational, helpful in any way so that other people can find their way to this kind of resource. And until we see you next time, adios for now.